Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and today we're going to be talking about the final that is going to be taking place on Sunday at 2 o'clock in Johannesburg at the Wanderers. It is the Lions taking on the Dolphins after two semi-finals took place this week. We had a semi-final on Wednesday and a semi-final on yesterday. And I wouldn't say necessarily that they were the most exciting matches to witness actually from a T20, if you want to look at it as a T20 fan perspective. I would say probably the Dolphins match was a little bit more exciting probably than the match between the Lions and the Titans. the the games were not as close as I was hoping it to be. And I think that's something that we can maybe discuss on today's show before we get into the preview for the final. And we're going to discuss this quite in depth. We're going to talk about the semifinals first and foremost, who performed, who didn't perform. And then we're going to go into the final and what we expect from the clash. It is the CSA T20 Challenge final. It's the last game of the season, domestic season in South Africa. And it's the last domestic tournament before the Proteas play again going forward in the next couple of months. But before we get going, before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell for all future videos. It's important that you do so that you get notified when we go live. I'd also like you guys to please download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. Smash the like button as well, guys, please. That helps us get into the YouTube algorithms. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to discussing this preview with you guys. A very good evening. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and this is your preview show. I'm your host, Khalid Moedin, and this is the show where we talk about everything that has to do with the T20 final, the CSA T20 final, T20 Challenge final between the Lions and the Dolphins that will take place, obviously, at the Wanderers in Johannesburg. So we had two semifinals, and I thought that it was set up for a very entertaining semi-final leg. We had the Lions take on the Titans first on Wednesday, and I was hoping for a very entertaining, exciting T20 match that went to the wire. Unfortunately, that is not what we got. I would have to say, and if I'm going to be honest about it, the Titans batted first, and yes, 2 overs were deducted. I think they were having problems with the floodlights and getting the lighting obviously on and etc. And two overs were deducted from the match, and it was a 18 over a side game. The Titans went out to bat, and we can only really give props to Jack Lees. He kept the game together. They had an early wicket of Luandre Pretorius, which fell early. He didn't think he was out. He thought he wasn't out. And the game was then in the Titans' hand to take control of, and they didn't. They started to with Rivaldo Munsami and Jack Lees, but Munsami lost his wicket in 7.2 overs, and the Titans were 44 for 2 at that stage when he lost his wicket for 24. The rest of the game was dominated by one particular player that I think needs to get some credit for the way he performed this season, and that's Ngaba Peter. I think he was fantastic with the ball. He took 4 for 18 in the match, and he was absolutely fantastic. We've been talking a little bit about him we've been talking a little bit about him in the preview, etc. When we spoke about some of the top performers that have been in this game um, before the semifinals took off. But now that the semifinals are complete, we can safely say that he was one of the best players in the tournament. He's taken 19 wickets in the 9 innings that he's bowled, and 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 has been absolutely fantastic compared to the others. Like Payas Swanepoel, who's second, he played 12 innings and he has 21 wickets, and CSA, who played 15 innings and he had 21 wickets. So Ngaba Peter was fantastic, and you can see that by his stats. He needs to get some um, applause for the way he's performed, because he was really dominant for the Lions this season in the games that he got to play. And even with him playing almost so much, so many, so little games and still getting so many wickets, his output has been fantastic. And not only that, his economy rate of 5.19 for a wrist spinner, that is absolutely unbelievable. And also 7.78 average, which is ridiculous compared to the averages above him by Swanepoel 16.80 and Sametu 16.38. But Ngaba Peter is a phenomenal bowler that has come through, that we can really say put up his hand. And I think that is absolutely fantastic from that perspective, that we need to give him props for the way he's performed. Other than that, it was Cody Yusuf with the second best figures in the match, 2 for 25 with an economy of 6.25. But it was Jack Lee's performance, 64 or 43 deliveries, 10 fours and a 6, strike rate around 48.83. And he's the one that took them to a total that was somewhat something to defend, you could say. Now, he is only 22 years old, Jack Lees, and he is someone that we are hoping can continue some momentum going into his career now, having gotten this opportunity to shine and step him up and putting in a great performance. So congratulations to him for his performance. Then on the flip, with the Lions, Ryan Rickelton, Risa Hendricks lost his wicket early, and they were 1 for 3 after 1 over. He lost his wicket on the last ball of the first over. And Ryan Rickelton and Rassie van der Dussen put on another 50 plus partnership. They scored 88. They scored 86 runs in their 85 runs, for their partnership. And Ryan Rickelton lost his wicket in the 10th over on 38 of 26 balls. He was really looking good at the crease, and I thought he was going to go on to get a half century. But in the end of the day, it was Rassie van der Dussen's performance that really stole the show. He got 73 or 45 balls, an economy of 162.22, 8 fours and a 6, continuing his performance and his form from the SA20. So you could say that Rassie has put up his hand for potentially getting selected in the World Cup. When you look at the informed players around, he must be in the talk, in the conversation, when it comes to selecting the squad for the T20 World Cup. He's not necessarily someone that I would say first and foremost in that position as an opener would be on my list as the person to get the opportunity. But they're going to have to make a decision, I think, between 3 players: Risa Hendricks, Ryan Rickelton, Matthew Brzezinski, and possibly also you can throw into the mix Rassie van der Dussen as well. So I think they're going to have to make a decision with regards to that performances, and whether also Quinton de Kock is going to be selected in this World Cup is a big talking point, given his commitment to the Proteas over the last year or so. It seems like he hasn't wanted to commit himself to South African cricket, to play for South Africa. From what we've heard from reports, etc., he was ready to retire from all formats in South African cricket and just play T20 tournaments. So it's going to be interesting to see what South Africa do and what Rob Walter decides and what Quentin de Kock decides. But anyway, Temba Bavuma scored 19 of 13 balls. He hit three fours, and it was 134 for two. And in 14.4 overs, they chased down the target with ease, and they ended up beating the Titans by 8 wickets with 20 balls remaining by the DLS method. So that was the first semi-final, and they obviously secured a home semi-final. Then it was the Dolphins and the Warriors. Now this game was a little bit more competitive, and the Warriors batted first, and I think the main problem for them, similarly, is that the only one main player really stepped up and performed. It's also, actually, sorry, this is very similar to the way that the Lions started their innings. I think the problem was losing a wicket early and maybe going a bit slow in the beginning. But Matthew Brzezinski batted well, really well. He could have batted a lot quicker than he wasn't batting as quick as he normally would approach it in his first innings. In his innings batting first as a opening batter, he has been a little bit quicker with his approach in other matches. But in this particular match, he after 11.6 overs, so after 12 overs. And it took a magnificent innings by Andile Mokakane. He was absolutely fantastic in this match. Similarly to Rassie van der Dussen, he took the attack to the opposition. 77 or 45 balls, a striker. He he also played a very 360 game, hitting the ball all around the park. He was, in my opinion, fantastic. And it's rounded off a decent season for him. I think he would have probably wanted to play a lot better. He only played 11 innings this tournament, and he scored 297 runs, only an average of 29.70 and 250s at a strike rate of 123. But this particular innings must be applauded. I think he was fantastic in this match. He really played all around the ground. Um, he even did some flare shots as well, scoops, etc., reverse sweeps. He hit the ball straight down the ground too. So he was very impressive and was key to their innings. He got them to 137 before losing his wicket by the 17th over, going for it at least. Had the right attitude before he lost his wicket. And then contributions from Jordan Herman, 20 of 17, JP King, 11 of 6, and Patrick Kruger with 4 of 4. You can't really count maybe that as a contribution, but you'd have to probably say the 1-6 from Jordan Herman and the 1-6 from JP King as well. Getting them into a position that was a defendable total, 161 for 4 after 20 overs. They would have hoped to get a little bit more, I think, maybe 170, 180, but unfortunately only got 161 for 4. The Dolphins reply was very good, I think. I think they approached it at a quick rate. Kayo Zondo was fantastic for his 49 of 23 balls. But unfortunately, a run out, a lapse in concentration and a run out that wasn't necessary in the sixth over. The first ball of the sixth over. There were 64 runs at this point, and they were really running away with the game, you could say, at that stage. And that wicket turned the game around in the Warriors' favor, you would say. Kyle Zonder, 49 of 23 at a strike rate of 213. So he was really good with the bat and unfortunately not getting a half century. Grant Rolfson then lost his wicket for 16 of 12. And then John Smuts scored 34 of 26, 3 fours and a 6 to add to the total and get them over the 100-run mark, deeper over the 100-run mark with Marcus Ackerman, of course. But he lost his wicket. Both of them lost their wickets just after passing the 100-run mark. So at the 100, after getting 110 on the board, after 11.2 overs. Marcus Ackerman lost his wicket only for 7. And then John Smuts lost his wicket when the team got to 114 on the last ball of the 12th over. But then it was up to Jason Smith and Andile Peklikwayo to come in and try to take them closer to a victory. But Andile, for me, um, being a Protea player and with the experience that he has, I was disappointed by his performance. I would have really hoped that he would be the guy that would have taken this team over the line. The game was set up for a person of his experience to take the game over the line. In the end, in fact, it wasn't him to do so. He lost his wicket when the team on 140 in halfway through the 16th over, and he only got 13 of 13 balls, only 2 fours to his total. It was actually the other all-rounder in the team, Jason Smith, who got his team over the line. 30 of 18 balls, 2 4s, 2 6s, a strike rate of 166. And he was the key player to take in his team to 166 for 5 to claim the victory of 5 wickets with 12 balls remaining. So well done to Jason Smith for playing a pivotal role in this particular game and taking his team to the victory. That was a fantastic performance from him. And ultimately, you can say that the Dolphins deserved their win in the end. So we're going to see the Lions take on the Dolphins. On paper, the Lions should have the better side, you could say. They have more players that have played for the Proteas, and they've got more experience in their setup. The Dolphins are going to be a wild card, though. They have some very talented players that have performed really well all season. And it's with a bat that I think it's going to be the key factor in the IFL. They're going to need their players to step up the Dolphins because not a lot of their players have been in form. When you look at the players that have the most, when you look at the players that are in form, Bryce Parsons is their top scorer with an average of 47 and he scored 150. Only played 8 innings for his team. And John Smuts, but they are not in the top run scorers in the tournament so far. So their batters aren't necessarily in the best of form, you could say, with regards to having a whole lot of batters in the top 5 or top 6. Whereas the Lions have Ryan Rickleton and Reza Hendricks in the top 5, and now Rasif van der Dussen in the top 10. So in the top 10, they've got 3 batters they're 3 batters, and they're all coming into form, and they all have half centuries to their names. So on paper, with the bat, the Lions are looking the strongest when it comes to the tournament. Now, when it comes to the bowling attack, and which bowlers are coming into form, then you also have to look at the Lions players. But there are some bowlers over here from the Dolphins. The Dolphins have more bowlers um, in the top. Oh, they have the same amount of bowlers. Do they have the same amount of bowlers in the top 10 as the Lions? And it is Sabrayan and Cele that are in the top 10. But Ngabe Peter, he's in the top 3. And he's coming off amazing form. So it's going to be about the Dolphins are going to have to find a way on how to handle his wristband. So it's going to be an interesting clash. It's going to be, I hope it's going to be an equal match. And I hope you're going to see a better wicket, maybe that is a little bit easier to, maybe more competitive to bat on, a little bit easier to bat on so that we can have a nice, good total. I want to see a match with a team that bats first, gets about 180, 185, round about there, that total, and then see the chase. That's the type, and I hope that the chase goes close. That's the type of final I'm interested in seeing and watching. When it comes to the semifinals and talking about players that put up their hand for the World Cup, none of the players that we mentioned before that we've said or basically on the short list, in from our opinion, really performed in that semifinal to the degree that we would have hoped for. I don't know what happened. Sorry, guys. My screen just switched off. My whole computer just crashed. Sorry, guys. Where was I? Okay, so I'm really hoping that we're going to see a competitive game when it comes to this particular final, because everybody's going to hope for an exciting match. Now, which players are we going to be looking forward to? I mean, me personally, I want to see the guys like Matthew Brzezinski, Jordan Ehrman. Maybe you could say, um, when it comes to those players, they are not necessarily on. They never really showed enough in the semi-final for that T20 World Cup. You would say, but if you look at, you have to take the readings of the whole entire tournament. So this is going to be now a second chance for the Lions and the Dolphins players to really put up their hand and perform under pressure. I think Matthew Brzezinski, throughout the season from the Warriors and for the SA20, has already cemented his spot as one of the guys shortlisted for potential selection. And I think he can be anywhere between the opening spot and the number 3 position. So they need to decide what they're going to do with uh, Riley Rousseau, and they're going to have to decide what they're going to do with Quentin de Kock, in my opinion, and then go with that, with whoever's going to be able to um, balance out that side nicely for the T20 World Cup. But it's now going to be a second chance for the likes of Riza Hendricks and Rassi van der Dussen. Now, a lot of people would say, I saw a lot of fans actually say that Riza Hendricks has deserved um, to be called. He's deserved of being called a first choice selection on the team sheet when it comes to the opening slot, because of what has happened to him in the past, with South Africa not necessarily backing him as a first choice in the team, going into World Cups and being in form, in the best form of his life, and not ever get it selected as the regular first choice. So people believe that he's put in the hard work to deserve a spot um, and a start in the World Cup. So if that is the case, and people want to see the likes of Rickleton or Brzezinski in the side, then that means that they are competing with Quentin de Kock for position. So that is how I've seen quite a few fans speak about the game in that manner, or about the selection process in that manner. For me, I think that the players that they need to select has got to do with a lot of factors of compatibility between the two teams. And I think that the way the team approaches the game is going to be based on how they can start a game in the power play. And they need to obviously have a combination of players that can attack the power play and score as many runs as possible at a quick rate. So they're going to have to make their decisions based on that too. Because at the moment, there are so many players in form that you can't necessarily go wrong with any of them, really. So for me, it's about going with compatibility between how they run between the wickets as a partnership. Do the two batters complement each other with the style of play and the way they play together? And the form, of course, is going to come into question, which players get selected. Now, I know fans love to say that you want to pick the most informed players, and that form is so important. For me personally, I don't think in cricket that form is as important as other sports, because what happens in cricket is you are bound to fail and go off form. It's like almost a given in cricket, and you you can almost say that you fail more than you succeed in the sport. So just because you're in good form doesn't mean that your form is going to carry on, especially if you're hitting consecutive half centuries in a row. Now, a player like Klaasen, for example, his form, you can pick someone like him based on his form, because his form is spread out. He doesn't necessarily hit 5, 6, 7, or 5, or 4, 5, 6 half centuries in a row necessarily, but his form is quite spread out. Like he'll hit a half century this week, a century this week, a half century next week, and then maybe a poor performance, and then maybe another one, and then come back into form again. And that's how they look at it. But it's going to be difficult for them to decide who they want to see. But I think this final between the Dolphins and the Lions, Bjorn Fortuin is going to be in the spotlight, I think. Of course, as the captain, I think he captained that match really well against the Titans. And then you got your Rassi van der Dussen, your Risa Hendricks, and your Ryan Rickelton and Vian Mulder, you can say, are also in the spotlight for T20 World Cup spot. And they're going to be watched quite carefully in that final. From the Dolphins' perspective, there aren't many that are available because I would have said Othniel Bartman, but he didn't play. Antile Peglekwayo is not someone that is on my list, but seeing that he got a Proteas contract, he's probably going to be looked at. So that is those are the two players I think are going to be under the radar from a Proteas selection perspective from the Dolphin side. So there is an opportunity for someone to really make a massive statement. But we will see on Sunday, 2:00. The two teams will face each other in the final, and the season is going to come to an end. So we are getting nearer and closer to the end of the season. So let me just get into some of the comments that I've seen over here. Navneet says, Hardy, bro, do you think Wayne Parnell deserves a place in the T20 World Cup squad? Not based on his performances recently, no. Wayne Parnell this season hasn't been as consistent as you would hoped for someone to perform. So yeah, Lauren saying Batman is at the IPL. I know he's at the IPL, and that's why we haven't seen him. But he should definitely be in the mix. But I'm saying for the final, we won't be able to watch him play. So unfortunately, but at least he's in the IPL and he's playing there. And I hope he's going to get opportunities to play there. Othniel Bartman, but he should be in the mix when it comes to the South African T20 side. I think based on his SA20 performances, definitely. It's unfortunate that we don't get to watch him. It's unfortunate that we don't get to watch him play here in South Africa in the T20 Challenge, because I hope that he gets a chance to play in the IPL. It's going to be almost detrimental to him, I feel, in a year where, in a season where he can really put up his hand for a spot in the South African side. It would have been nice to see him have as many games as possible. And I would have liked him to obviously stay at the Dolphins and play and be in this final, but unfortunately that's not the case. So back to Wayne Parnell. I don't think he's done enough this season to be in the mix for the T20 World Cup squad. I think there's other all-rounders that have performed better than him this season in the tournament in SA20, like for example, a Vian Mulder that can play in that spot. I think in T20 cricket, that 7 spot is okay for him. Even though I know he batted higher for the Durban Super Giants and he bats a little higher for the Lions, but I think that he is someone that you can look at in that 7 slot when you look at the rest of the makeup of the team. I know Vian bats at 5 for the Lions in T20 cricket and a little bit higher for Durban Super Giants. But I think for South Africa, that's where you'd probably bat. Harley, brother, who is your number 7 in T20 World Cup? And KG leaks too many runs in T20 and hasn't taken wickets of late. Number 7, like I've just mentioned, it depends on how we're going to balance the side. But for me, it would probably be a guy like Vian Mulder. With the way he's performed recently, I think that he deserves an opportunity to showcase what he can do, given his form in SA20 as well. But I wouldn't be too scared of playing someone like Marco Jansen in 7. I think Marco Jansen can handle that with the way he's performed in T20 cricket with the bat. He's really shown that he can be capable. So I would probably, because I want to try and fit as many world class bowlers into the side that we possibly can, with Andrich, KG, Lungi, Partman possibly, um, and Nandre Berger, Cheryl Kutsia. They are all available. So you want to try and fit as many of those quicks in the side as possible. So for me personally, I'll probably go Marco Jansen at 7 to free up a position. Lauren saying, if we look at this for this from a realistic point of view, it seems like Quinton Clark will open alongside Riza. Rickerton will most likely be the backup to those two, with Brzezinski unfortunately missing out, possibly. Lauren saying Batman is in the IPL with Delhi, yes. Tabo saying, will Andrich Nokia go to the World Cup? He is out of form and getting destroyed in the IPL and probably not fit. That is going to be a question that they're going to need to answer. I think that at the moment, Nandre Berger is probably ahead of him with regards to his performances recently. Andrich isn't looking necessarily very fit in his best form. That's why there's talks about him possibly retiring from certain formats for the Proteas, um, given the amount of injuries that he's been getting over the last couple of years. There are rumors surrounding his availability, etc., and whether he'll be available based on his fitness. So Rob has a lot of difficult decisions to make. Um, there's still a hell of a lot of IPL games to go for him to get back into match fitness again and to improve his form and get better. So let's see if he gets enough game time to be able to do so. Lauren says, right now, I'm not picking Nokia ahead of guys like Bartman and Berger. He clearly is struggling since coming back from the major back injury. Not a risk worth taking when others are there already. And we need to also, but there's still a long time for us to make that decision. There's still a hell of a lot of games left in the IPL for us to see, because the players that are competing against each other for positions, they are all playing in the IPL. So there's an opportunity for us to maybe see whether Andrich Nokia gets enough games for him to get match fit. Because I think for him, it's not an ability perspective, it's a match fitness perspective. He's been out of cricket for a hell of a long time. And I think it's about him trying to find his rhythm again. On top of that, the IPL hasn't been really very, very good to bowlers this season. Bowlers have really, really struggled in the tournament. It's been a batting tournament by far. So you have to look at it from that perspective as well, because it isn't necessarily the best way for us to can't really judge it fully, particularly the bowlers. You can't really take it at you can't take it at face value, because this season in the IPL, I mean, it's just been absolute carnage. There's been 766 sixes in the tournament already. I mean, it's actually ridiculous. There's 9 matches that were played, 9 innings, 9 matches played, and there's already 766 sixes and 1,295 fours in the tournament so far. So it's absolute madness when it comes to uh, the tournament and how the games are going. When I look at the total scored in this tournament already, we've had it's crazy. Let me just tell you quickly. We've had uh 24 scores 24 scores in this tournament already of above 200, and it's only been 9 innings played by each team. So it hasn't necessarily been a tournament for the bowlers at all. Bowlers have really, really struggled overall. So it's absolutely crazy what we are seeing in the IPL at the moment. when it comes to batting. It's definitely been a batter's tournament by far. Um, when you look at the best economy rates in this tournament so far, uh, apart from Ravindra, who has economy rate of 3.5 and 0 wickets, um, he's only bowled 2 overs in the tournament, right? Apart from that, you've got Yadav going for 6 economy rate, um, and he's only played 3 matches. When you see the guys that have played 9 matches, 8 or 9 matches or more, you've got Badoni, who's only bowled 1 over. If you're looking at the amount of overs, so you're taking about 30 overs or more, right? You've got Narain, who's already conceded 223 runs um, in his 32 overs bowled, and he's going at 7. You've got Axel Patal, economy rate of 7.42, and he's bowled 31 overs. So everybody's going at above 7 economy rate at the moment. So it hasn't been the best of tournaments for the bowlers really in general this season. I think they are struggling to find their rhythm and take wickets, as many wickets as we would have hoped, and you can clearly see it by the total scored. Tabo saying a lot of cricket fans are not keen on seeing Mulder in Protea colours, yet alone in the World Cup, but I would rather see him than Andile. That's the point. Because at the moment, I think Andile is looking like he might get selected, and I think it's valid for us to have criticism against that. Sunrisers have hit 20% of sixes in this year's IPL. Lawrence saying we don't need to force anything, just pick the guys who've been bowling well and is fit. I don't think I'm picking Ngidi as well, another one who's been injury prone. So yes, the nice thing is we can have this discussion when the IPL season is over, when we've seen a couple of Proteas games in the West Indies, and then we can start having those conversations about who we'd want to pick in the World Cup closer to the time. There's enough time for players to still get fit for the World Cup, and there's a lot of time for those players that we are in form now to get out of form. So there's still many games for that to happen too. So we're going to have a look at this again a little bit later. I don't think right now, today, is the right time to speak about it when there's so many T20 games still happening ahead of the World Cup. I think that's a discussion that we can have a little bit later. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for all future videos, please. Very important that you guys all do so that we can hit our next milestone, which is 5,000 subscribers. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys again very soon with another Daily Show. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Peace out, everyone.